In this episode, we are talking about the energy of receiving. We discuss why so many of us have so many blocks and vows blocking us from being able to receive. We look at what you can do to open that up and the stories behind why we do it.
Let's talk about what intuition really is.
Let's look at all the places intuition and ego show up in your life.
Let's share honestly.
Let's do the research.
I'm Jamie Hayhurst.
I'm Heather Wood.
This is the Intuitive Girls Guide.
Hey Jay.
Hey.
I have a dragon on my shirt today.
Oh, yeah, you do. I love dragons.
And you have we both have this shirt. You have a shirt with a cute kitty holding flowers, but above it says rage consumes me.
Yes, the rage does consume me.
Yes, but don't you feel like that's really fitting? Like part of me is like this kitten with flowers.
Right.
Like this is the like ethereal, holistic, spiritual part of me that people like. But also, I'll cut a bitch. Like that really represents.
Or like when people compliment me on this, like, I love your shirt. And I was like, oh, you didn't read it. You're just looking at the cat. I was like, thank you.
But it's sort of like a personality test for them in a way. Right. Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, besides our cute shirts, we're going to talk today about a very particular, what I would call block.
Oh, yeah. It is a block. One of my favorites.
And it's difficulty in receiving and allowing yourself to receive. Mm-hmm. I think the language is important when we say allowing ourselves to receive. And I think I'm starting to sound a little bit trippy, like a typical white lady going on a rant about manifesting. But I am a white lady talking about manifesting.
Correct.
So
and you're not telling us to not be vaccinated.
No.
You're not like, you haven't tipped the scale.
I'm not heading us towards the pipeline.
Right.
No, I'm not.
Right.
But this is something that whether you're into it or not, it's into you.
Just like politics. Absolutely.
I feel like we say that a lot.
Absolutely.
But it's also really true about so many intuitive concepts. It's like people are like, oh, I'm really not into like the psychology of having stuff blocks or the stories I tell myself. And I just think that's hilarious.
Exactly.
Because, oh, guess what? It's running your life.
Exactly. It's probably ruining it.
It's probably ruining your life. Yes. But this is like really... This crosses so many mediums, this issue. Mm-hmm. The ability to receive. And now, when you hear me say that, depending on what you're coming from right now, you might be like, are you talking about messages from the dead? Are you talking about compliments? Are you talking about money? What are you talking about, Heather? And the answer is yes. I'm talking about all of those things. I'm actually talking about the thing right before what you're trying to receive. Just the receiving itself.
Yes.
You have so many stories about receiving and how it connects to shame and what it means about you and the made up concept of self-worth, which we'll talk about. Mm-hmm. You have so much connected to that it is blocking a flow of abundance. I know what that sounds like. It's goony sounding. I get you.
It's true though.
But it's really effing true, my friends. Mm-hmm. You are being so affected by it and you don't even know. Don't even know.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of this personally, I have a very hard time with receiving. Until recently,
me too.
That was probably one of my biggest blocks was receiving. And the thing is that like, it's one of the concepts that we talk about where like, if you can just make a change about how you are approaching the concept as a whole, you will start to see it making changes in all different parts of your life.
Yes.
Like if you're thinking about money right now, which is how I used to think about like worry about receiving.
Yep.
I was always focused on like manifesting more money and abundance and had a lot of scarcity there. Mm-hmm. Energetically and like literally there.
Yes.
But like I was so hyper focused on like money and finances that like I was missing the big picture, which you helped me see. It's like when you start looking at the big picture. All these other things start to line up. So if you're listening to this and you're just thinking of one part of your life right now as we're talking, maybe like take a step back, zoom out just a smidge and think of like receiving in general.
Absolutely. And this is a fantastic point because if you start to be like overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I have trouble receiving in this department, in that department, and all these things. There's good news and bad news for you here.
Right.
Okay. So what I think is the good news, maybe you would interpret this differently. Mm-hmm. Maybe someone who's trying to sell like doing a lot of sessions with them would sell this differently or take this differently. But it's all one problem.
Correct.
Okay. So, but that one issue has like all these little finite things coming off of it. So you might have a trouble receiving, let's say, money in the example you said, but let's also just, for example, say criticism
or compliments,
any of those things. The root of that, the main story of why all those things are hard is the same, but there's these little, this is sort of like the bad news part. There's these little offshoots where there's these little extra things and really particular wording and reasoning, like root causes there that you also need to look at. So across the board, you'll heal it. If you only work on receiving money, you're going to actually heal a bunch of other things too. You just have to apply the same concept. But there's these little finite things in there that will actually help you.
Right. But if you heal the whole concept, then when you get to these little sub areas, then all it becomes is like a little tweak.
Exactly.
Because you know what the actual problem is. You just have to figure out how it applies to receiving criticism or receiving money or receiving help or whatever. Like then you can make like a little like fine tuning.
Exactly.
And then you're
the heavy digging happens once. And then you're just like really like tuning it in. Correct. Fine tuning it after that.
Exactly.
Is it ever easy though?
No.
I don't think so. I think it's always kind of triggering. And I think especially with this particular block, it's always a big trigger. Issue. So that's why I wore my dragon shirt. I love it. Because I got to channel the inner dragons when I'm doing this work. I like dragons. So all right. So across many mediums, you'll see talk of this in psychology, which will be worded a little bit different than if you saw it in like a holistic health sort of environment, or in like a, maybe like you're having an intuitive reading of some kind, but basically it's all the same thing. All the concepts are very, very similar. Now, I want to say something important here at the beginning, because one of the things that I notice out in the world is that this affects women very differently than it affects men.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Now, I would like, before I get into the woman part, I would like to stop and tell you that I see it affect men all the time.
Oh, definitely.
I don't mean that it does not affect men. It affects men differently in general as a whole than it affects women. Men seem to have trouble receiving in this. And again, I'm speaking generally. All men are different. I'm not trying to throw them all into
not all men.
No, I'm not trying to do that. But what I am meaning is, like, if we separate the two genders, this is what I'm talking about. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to people who are non-binary or anything like that. Just using this as an example, fit yourself in where you feel like it applies the best for you.
Well, and also to your point, like you could be not non-binary or transgender, and I love that for you.
Yeah.
But probably for your childhood, the world and society approached you, treated you as a specific gender.
And that's where the heaviness of this block
that's where
is
the
affecting you.
is.
So that's a good point. Like, look there first when you're trying to figure this out for yourself.
Yes.
If those gender norms aren't just as easily applied to you. Right. Okay. So what I see with men more often is the idea of receiving and what it means about their masculinity and their idea of masculinity.
Right.
Okay. So I'll just give you like a really quick example of something that happened to me somewhat recently.
Okay.
I was somewhere, a stranger, a man was in front of me in the line.
Gasp.
Okay. And he dropped his wallet and like things went flying. Like normally a woman would, and like stuff would go flying out of her purse. This was like a wallet, and it didn't go flying like super far, but like his cash came out, his credit card, he was holding his license, it came out, like he dropped his phone at the same time. It was like all a thing. And I was one person behind him in line, and he went, oh shit. Like just had a reaction, but he's also like trying to pay. So he was like doing a lot of things at once. So I went back down and scooped and picked it all up for him and handed it to him. And the amount of uncomfortable he became.
When you helped him?
Because I helped him. You could see. So his response was, thank you. I'm so sorry. I can't believe you had to bend over and pick that up for me. I should have done that. Oh my God. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yes.
But that's too much shame.
That's a big shame response.
Yeah, that is.
But it wasn't about like any part of himself except that he was a man. I swear to you, if another man had picked it up, he would have had a different reaction. Probably still wouldn't have liked it.
He would have joked with the guy though.
Yeah, but it was like, oh my God, this woman has bent over. I was also older than him, so you probably imagine he's thinking like this elder woman.
Oh, I was picturing him to be older.
No, he was younger.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like there was all this stuff happening for him. And so, you know, me being a human behavior person, I was like fascinated.
You're like,
he was
tell me more about this.
He's probably thinking like, this woman thinks I'm crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the most interesting thing that happened to me today. So you sort of see it more along those lines. Okay.
Yes.
I've talked to men who have said different things about like it being hard to ask for help because of sort of what their fathers told them about a man needing help and what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how this affects women because or people who identify as such.
Yep.
But that is because that's the majority of our listeners.
Correct.
And I think it affects women more than it affects men in different areas.
Right.
Okay. But I don't want to minimize that it happens to men.
No.
And I do know we have some male listeners.
We do.
We're always like, oh my God.
Oh, hey. Yeah,
thanks.
exactly. Right.
That's so
yeah,
cool.
Wonderful.
I want you to feel like seen and heard also.
Yes,
okay?
I agree.
But it affects women. If I was going to say a word, I would say like more vastly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So how I would feel about receiving help or receiving money is tied to so many different areas of who I am as a person. Whereas what it seems like to me societally, at least for American society with men, it affects them more in what it means about them as a masculine man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But as a woman, it affects how I feel in every role I play.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Not just as a woman.
Right.
I need help or I don't need help. That in itself is confusing because I think I'm supposed to be a damsel in distress, but only when it's convenient to a man.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I was going to say. Exactly.
Yeah. But otherwise I don't have any needs and I certainly don't have any emotional needs.
Right, exactly. Right.
So it's this really interesting thing. But when I think of like how it affects my role as a mother, when I think of how it affects my role as a friend or an employee or an employer or a leader or, you know, the list goes on.
It does.
That's where it gets really muddy and difficult.
Yep.
So I think that's what you see when you look in sort of how it affects men and women.
Agreed. I agree.
I also think so many women are experiencing burnout because they don't have any great tools on how to receive.
Agreed.
They're struggling to receive. They're giving as much as they possibly can. But then when it comes to filling the cup back up, there's a lot of shame here. Yep. So it's not just in like
that's true.
Receiving a compliment or receiving help. It's actually like self-care or putting myself back together. Like even just receiving that
time,
receiving anything energetically.
Yep.
Can you tell the people, because I feel like you explain this really well, when we're looking at masculine energy versus feminine energy, and I mean this not gendered.
Right.
Okay. I mean like the actual energies. Masculine energy looks a certain way and it behaves a certain way. Feminine energy behaves another way.
Yes.
And I think it's important to look at as to why we might see a lot more burnout and struggle in this department in females. So would you talk about what that looks like? Yeah.
So the way I was taught was that masculine energy, when it's leaving your body, it starts in your heart. I think I talked about this in the Reiki episode.
Yeah, I think I make you explain this a lot.
So it starts an episode. It starts in the chest area, and then it shoots. I always think of it as like an arrow, like it shoots from the body and it leaves and it goes out. Women, their energy recycles.
Yep,
is what I call it. So like women, their energy like starts in their chest area, and but then it almost comes out like if you're watching, like with your arms coming out, like your arms coming out at your sides, and then it goes back in to your chest and it comes back out
and around,
out and around. Right. So like if you think about sort of the stereotype of like an elderly woman like putting on a blanket or a shawl or a cardigan and like wrapping themselves up like this, it's like that energy. Like that's when I see women do that. I'm like, oh, you're pulling back in. You're pulling your energy back in. I do it all the time. I catch myself doing it. I'm like, oh, I'm locking in a little bit, like energetically.
Exactly. Yeah. And just to clarify a point that we say all the time, but I think it's worth being a broken record. gender wise, men and women both have masculine and feminine energy.
Everybody has both energies.
Yes, and everyone has their own
ratio.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect. Where I was going to say balance, but
Right.
yes, ratio of those energies.
Right. So I have more masculine energy than you do.
I have more feminine energy. Yeah.
Right.
It's just a balance. It has
Right.
absolutely nothing to do with your gender.
Right.
Can gender be affected by that? Probably. That's probably its own study.
If only we funded things like that.
Oh my God,
we don't
right?
do that anymore.
Exactly.
Silly.
But it also doesn't mean that like somebody's more girly or manly either. Like we have to get away from the gender elements of that. And I know it's really difficult to do.
And there are people in this like community, which is a very broad community.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you want to call it. Like, I wouldn't call it wellness. I would call it like intuitive, I guess.
Yeah.
There are some people who are like, masculine and feminine energy does not exist. It's not a thing. It's like I think some people would go so far as to say it's like anti-trans, like like that it doesn't exist. There are people who are like more moderate, like you and I are, and there are some people who are like only women have feminine energy, only men have masculine energy. Mm-hmm. Like it depends on how you see energy and like what your practices and teachings are.
I think that the fact that there's so many different points of view is important to have in a like this is a conversation that needs to be happening because it hasn't happened. Right. And in my opinion, just me, Heather, and I know yours is similar, but people have taken the concept of masculine and feminine and kidnapped it into the ridiculous roles of gender that we have made as a society. Right. So I understand the hesitation of using it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use those terms outside of like you and I and like this podcast when I have the ability to preface it and explain it, because I would lean towards saying I don't say it at all in like an abundance of caution.
Yes.
But like when I have the platform to be able to explain it, yes.
100%. It's just something you need to be careful around. And I support being careful around it.
100%.
But I also support conversation about it. Like if somebody's like, hey, I really don't think you should use those terms at all, I'm willing to listen. Right. I think that there are places where they make sense and apply. And I personally think we need to be separating gender from so many things. And I just happen to think this is one of the places.
Right. And if I may veer us off a little bit.
Veer away, darling.
I think like one of these conversations about gender in general, not energy, but I mean just gender, or if you're thinking about sort of gendered energy, if you want to call it that, what I do is like if you're having these thoughts and wondering about these things, I would caution you not to like be like we always say, I know, like be pulled down that pipeline.
Yes.
The way I make sure I'm not pulled down that pipeline is like instead I always go backwards. Like and I mean way back, like to pagan times.
Back. Yeah.
Right. So like I'm talking about like Native American culture. Like I'm talking about pagan cultures. Like what did like the original peoples of this continent, what did they think about gender?
Before patriarchy came in and wanted you to define it, to control
it. Before patriarchal religion, before they were controlling people and stealing land and murdering women and all these things. Like what were cultures before that? How did they think of gender?
Exactly.
And that's where I sort of get my anchoring of these sort of thoughts.
And you'll find when you look in those things, talk of masculine and feminine energy. You'll see that there.
Right.
And you'll see it not gendered.
Exactly. And you'll see that there was not two genders in those cultures.
Never. No examples of that. Yeah,
No.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think it's important to talk about. It's important to see. And I think it's important that, like you said, when you have the platform to explain it, you use it.
Right. Like life existed before America.
Wait, what?
Life existed before patriarchy, before Jesus.
Yeah.
Before any, like there was life for thousands and thousands of years. Like if you just got to zoom out a little bit. Yeah. And you're not taught to zoom out.
No.
You're taught to keep it locked in right in this like pinpoint of time of this country, our existence.
Exactly.
That's it. You got to zoom out.
You got to zoom out because that's where there were times where intuition was equally as important as fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So to steer us back in, I'd like to say that when it comes to yourself, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed and you're like, how do I figure out how I feel about receiving and in all these areas?
Right.
It's really not something that you have to sit and like unearth in one sitting or spend 2 weeks of your life obsessing about. Maybe that's how you roll.
Either. It's probably too deep.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think what it's about is bringing a lot of awareness to things and like paying attention.
Yep.
And then going back and fixing.
Yeah.
Not most of us can't fix in the moment, but it's just like,
right.
I'm clairvoyant / very visual, right? So
Yes.
like I like literally imagine putting a pin in something when it's happening, and then I go back and look at my pins later. Okay,
that's cool.
Apply that to your own clairs and learning styles.
Yes,
write it down, or however that works for you.
Right.
Say it out loud, like, "Ooh, come back to this," or however
With
you
your notes
operate.
Right.
Put your notes out and try a bunch of different ones, and then go back and think about it when it's like a good time to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do sometimes. Someone's talking and I start going like way off into somewhere, but like that's not recommended.
No.
Okay. So this, like we said before, your ability to receive has a huge effect on manifesting, which is like just basically how you call things to yourself. One of my favorite ways to like watch this in a person and like see how they do with receiving is to give them a compliment.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It goes real well most of the time. And listen, I'm not making fun of you because I am not good at taking compliments. It's something that I have been working really hard on for years. And like, I do this thing where I do better for a little while and then I like slip down and I suck at it again.
And be real with yourself when you're thinking about this, because like I remember doing all this work and being like, I love a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my head I do. But like actually being with another person and actually having the attention on me and actually having to like receive it, totally different story.
Totally different. 100%. So I would ask you to do a little experiment. I'm going to tell you how I do this with people and what I look for so that you can apply it to yourself. But sometimes it's harder to apply it to yourself. So sometimes you can, if you like see it out in the wild and others first, it like will give you some insights.
Right.
So you can spot somebody who feels unsafe taking a compliment. Now, like you said before, I love a compliment. Everybody loves a compliment, but not everybody feels safe receiving a compliment. That's the difference.
Right.
You love it, but it doesn't feel safe now, does it?
Exactly.
So I want you to look at that. Now, if I give someone a compliment and they're just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yep. And I can energetically tell they like took it in and they went on with their day. Right. I'm like, ooh, they're doing a good job receiving. Yep. Good job, at least in this department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a rarity, Jamie.
I know, exactly.
What actually happens more often is somebody has some kind of an unsafe response, and there's a lot of them, but I'm going to give you two. And I wonder if people will be able to tell, because it's you and I, which one is which.
Okay.
And these are just, you'll see it a lot. Okay. So sometimes you'll give someone a compliment, and what they'll do is divert the attention away from themselves. Okay. You can probably tell by Jamie laughing that that's her. Okay. So you receive a compliment. Thank you. Let me quickly divert the attention. Okay. So the reason that she's doing that is because it's unsafe for her to receive a compliment, but it's unsafe in the way that it's unsafe for her to have that attention.
Correct.
Okay. It's not necessarily unsafe for people to view you as great.
Oh, no.
Or whatever the compliment is, but it's unsafe for you to be centralized as the center of attention receiving something good at that moment.
Yes.
So if you've ever seen somebody do, I kind of call it like the shuck and jive.
Yep.
And it's just like an act. You do a thing when you're in a good space about it, where you just kindly like turn the attention on the other person.
Yes. I'll compliment you back.
Yeah, but you do it in a way that like suddenly they don't even realize it, and they're like talking about themselves, and and they're like, "How do we get off Jamie so fast?" Right. Well, because she has a black belt in that, everybody, because she doesn't like that. Now, do I think deep down you actually like it?
Oh, I love it.
100%. It's just
I'm
not
thinking
safe
about it. I'm not like mad that you said it.
No, it's just not safe.
I'll be like, oh, I'll think about it later and be like, oh, they liked my hair or whatever, like whatever they said. But like, you're right. It's like in the actual moment of receiving feels uncomfortable. The attention is tough.
The present moment of that. Okay. Now, the other example, which shocker, is me. This is what I call, let's bring it down a notch. Okay. So if
Mhm.
you, depending on
I
the
bet a lot of people
level
do this.
of the compliment,
Uh-huh.
it will be the level in which I will bring it down. So if you say like, "Oh my God, your hair looks great today." Okay. I'll be like, "Oh my God, you should have seen it yesterday." Like I have to bring myself down to you.
Or you'll be like, oh, this old thing, I got it for like $3.
Yes.
Like you're literally diminishing the
Let's
value, the
diminish
actual
it.
value of it.
Yes. Now here's why. Do I like the compliment? Yes.
Mhm.
Did I wear that new shirt or do my hair in a way that I hope people look at it and think
Yes.
that looks fucking great? And
Yeah.
do I hope they tell me? Yeah. Why is it unsafe though? Because for me, it is unsafe to be seen as above anybody or like
Right.
doing super, super well. Like
Right.
that is unsafe
Right.
based on childhood. And I know I'm not alone. I know
No.
Jamie's not alone.
No.
Those are two examples that you can quickly see.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I also incorporate some of your tactics. You also incorporate
Yeah.
some of mine in order to move us on.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're not sure, this is your first time trying to figure out, look how quickly someone tries to change the subject
Right.
after you've complimented them. If it's fast, it's unsafe for
Right.
them. Okay. So just apply that to yourself.
I
if you
also
can.
want to add in, I think sometimes I have a harder time with if you compliment something about like what I'm wearing,
Yeah.
that I take really well
Yes.
because I don't think that that's me.
Interesting.
It's like this is what it's like being friends with me and Heather.
Tell me more of this, Jamie.
I knew I had to say it out loud. Like it's just like, oh, you like the shoes, not I didn't make them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you say like, I love like what you did, like how that speech you gave, or your presentation, or the whatever you put together, that I would be more likely to deflect because that's me.
So it's safer for people to compliment your choice and your taste
Yes.
than it is your performance.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. This is the work you want to be doing.
Yes.
Okay? Because
Right.
not only do you want to be looking at
Don't talk about my performance. Actually.
I just struck such a chord by accident. Oh my god.
It's true.
Okay, sorry. That was really funny. This is like even if you're just listening, I'm sure you can experience it, but like this is what happens when you hit a nerve. Like this is
Yes.
what you're looking for when you're
Yes.
doing this work.
Right.
For someone to react like that, okay? Now, when you're doing this, you don't want to just look at like, oh, compliments are hard. You want to
Right.
go deeper. What
Why?
compliments are hard? What?
Right.
I'm not uncomfortable when people compliment my shoes. I mean, honestly, you would say thank you, but you would definitely move the conversation on. We wouldn't
certainly
stay on your shoes.
Yes, but I wouldn't like self-deprecate over it.
Right.
I'd be like, yeah, I love these things.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if it was like, wow, that speech you gave, Jamie, or that work project you just did, that's phenomenal. Great work, Jamie.
Thanks, Suki.
That's going to be hard because it's performance based. So then you
Right.
want to look and go, why? No, I don't want you to answer this
No.
live on the podcast, but I mean, I think I know the answer. But like, you want to look to like, what did I associate with getting attention for performing
Yes.
anything? I don't just
Correct.
mean like a dance performance or a singing performance. I mean,
No.
just like showing up
Right.
and doing a thing. What was that like for me to be getting attention, and why might I have interpreted that as unsafe?
Right.
And then you'll start to get an understanding, and it will spread beyond compliments. It will go to, you'll see it in money. You'll see it in all these places.
Right.
Okay. And spoiler alert, in a general sense, it has to do with what you associate with your worth, like what makes you worthy to other people.
Yep.
That's where the feelings of unsafety start to come in.
I mean, if you want to look on like a bigger scale, like what we have not mentioned in all these like examples is like the receiving of love.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're someone who's looking for a partner, if you're like, why can't I call in like a great partner for myself? It's because because of your feelings of worth. Yeah. And your ability to receive that type of love, even though you really want love. Obviously we all do, right? Like on the surface, yes, of course I want love. Yeah. But what's actually subconsciously blocking you from that?
Can I say something trippy?
Sure.
My eyes are watering, so that means intuitively I have to say it.
Oh, go
say
for
the
it.
thing. Any kind of receiving is love. It's just the scale. Compliments are love. Energy is love. A gift is love. Somebody helping you out is love.
It's also intuition.
Yeah.
Like love is intuition. Receiving is intuition. Like if you're not open to receiving, you're not receiving your own intuition.
Exactly. And before you start to say, well, what about receiving insults? Well, your reaction to it is the love you have for yourself. It's every part of receiving is love. There's no part that isn't.
Agreed.
I know that's cheesy.
That's a great point, though. No, it's not.
But it's the scale. So if you have trouble receiving compliments about your performance, you also have trouble receiving compliments about your performance in a relationship. If you have trouble receiving compliments on your shirt you picked out, or you have to take things down a notch like I do, that's affecting your romantic relationships. It's affecting everything.
It's all like mirrored everywhere.
Exactly.
You can see it in all different. Once you see it, once you can see it, you'll start to see it everywhere, all the different facets of your life. And it'll look a little different, but they'll all be sort of like reflections of this like main issue.
Exactly. All right, I think we should take a quick break. Okay. When we come back, I'm going to give you like a couple little exercise experiments to do on yourself when it comes to receiving.
We'll be right back after this short break. You know what goes great with podcast listening?
A great cup of coffee from a great coffee shop.
Yep, beans roasted in-house, amazing baristas. You know where I'm talking about.
Restoration Coffee. Can we go?
Yes, I need an Americano and maybe a panini too.
Ooh, I need blueberry maple latte and probably a resto bowl.
Ooh, yeah. Check them out and visit restoration-coffee.com. Let's talk about what we're obsessed with this week.
All right, Heather. I'm just going to play a little snippet here, a little TikTok, and we can talk about it. Ready?
Yeah.
Hey, has anyone invented a way to receive validation without being perceived?
Just wondering.
So what's extra funny is that I believe I sent that to you.
You sent it to me.
I also think it's hard because I think we're on the same algorithm. So sometimes I'm like, I know you've probably seen it, but I'm going to send it because it made me think of wanting to talk about it with you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. But anyways, I sent it to you thinking it was about you, and you received it from me thinking I was talking about myself.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about both of us.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely. I thought you were talking about yourself.
Yeah.
But you meant me.
I did.
It's both of us.
It is both of us.
And it's interesting that I had this chosen as an obsessed, and this is literally what we're talking about.
Exactly.
It's like being perceived, being seen.
It's really hard.
But also wanting the validation. Like when we were talking about my performance.
Yeah.
Like like someone complimenting me on my performance. Like,
yeah.
I want that validation. I want you to compliment me, but I also want to have like an invisibility cloak on when you say it, so that like I want to overhear you complimenting me.
But I don't want to be in the room when it's happening. I want you to do it to a room full of thousands of people. I want to overhear but I don't want to be in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like it's this very weird conundrum. It's so confusing, and I think it applies to so many people.
Well, because why isn't there like a whole couple years of your life where it's dedicated to like dealing with the fact that people have to perceive you?
Right.
Because honestly, if we really look at it, it's not the perceiving itself that bothers us. It's the ability. It's controlling how we're perceived that bothers us. We want to control how you perceive us, and as soon as that starts to feel a little bit out of control for us, that's when we're like, "Holy shit! Like we gotta change some things."
Yeah, and we're also like all raised in this society, whether it's America and I know it happens elsewhere, but like we're all socialized to care so deeply about what people think about us, so that we'll go and buy things to change the way we are perceived. So like we're socialized to care so deeply, but given no tools to manage how that feels. We're just taught to fix it.
Yeah, we're sort of taught to like run our own PR team about ourselves.
Correct.
Instead of
and then you add social media into that, and it's like, Oh, now I have to literally be perceived by like potentially millions of people. Like
It's
our
ridiculous.
brains aren't
Yeah.
wired for that much perception.
I think that's why people like having like this like fakey persona online,
Right.
where
It's
it's all
safer.
perfect and like it's not really them.
Correct.
It's way safer.
That's why women fall for the trad wife pipeline,
Oh geez, you're right.
because it's so much easier to just step into this role that we've all been groomed for.
Yeah.
You know, as like female presenting people, like we've been groomed to be trad wives.
Yeah.
So it's easy to step into that. It's easy to buy in and to make money off of it.
It really is. And it's really easy to use that to try to control women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So if anyone has invented a way to receive incredible compliments without being there but know about it,
Right.
and watch other people be impressed by it,
Right. Be validated with zero perception
and zero accountability, that please write us.
Let us know.
All right, Jay.
Yes.
One of my most favorite exercises in receiving to do with people is the money one, which I know you've done. You hate it. Yeah, hate it, but it works.
It does.
It just brings up some feelings. But the reason I love it so much is not because it elicits so much feeling, but actually because so many people will tell me, I don't have any problem receiving money. What are you talking about, Heather? I want all the money ever given to
100%.
me. And then they do this exercise and realize they get stuck at like $50.
It's
and they're
crazy.
Like, holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want you to do this. And if you're having that reaction where you're like, I have no
That was me.
limit.
I'd be like, I want
There's
money.
no
I'm ready.
ceiling.
I'm ready to be rich. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Send me the money. Show me the money.
Show me the money,
Awful
bitches.
Tom Cruise.
Awful Tom Cruise with your Scientology.
No,
bastard.
thank you.
Okay. Anyways, take that. If you're saying that, I just want you to know you have more of a red flag on you that you have trouble receiving than the people who are like, oh, I'm not so sure.
It was me.
Okay. Yeah.
I had huge issues there.
Yes. Okay. So what I want you to do, you can kind of do it while I'm talking, but I want you to kind of do this when you like have a minute to really like tap into your feelings. So if that's not now, just remember this exercise or come back to this point in the episode.
I literally remember where I was.
Where
when
were
you
you?
know I remember nothing
Yeah.
of my life. I
Yeah.
remember like sitting in my car
Yeah.
looking at this.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like on my phone.
It's like when people are like, I knew where I was when I found out about 9/11.
JFK was assassinated. Like I remember taking this and
Yes.
being like,
Yeah.
this is easy.
Yeah.
$1 million.
All the way to the top.
And you were
baby.
like, I don't think so.
Let's try
Jamie."
again, Jamie. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to start with $1. You're going to jump to 5, 10, 20. You're going to go up in increments of 10. Okay. Then when you get to about 50, you can go up in increments. You can jump to 100 if you feel like you're flying. But I think increments of 10 work best.
Yep.
Okay. And you are going to imagine not just randomly receiving.
No.
You have done nothing. You have not earned this. You're just sitting there and someone walks up to you and starts handing you this money. Okay? When do you start to object? When do you start to get a squidgy feeling in your belly? If someone walked up to you and handed you $1, maybe you're okay with it. Jamie's shaking her head yes because she's already uncomfortable.
I would be very uncomfortable
Okay.
if someone just handed me money.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Someone just walked up and handed me $1. I'd be like, is this a trick? Is there something written on the dollar?
Right. Is this a code for something?
Have I just been, is it my dream and I've been invited to be a
A
spy?
secret society.
Yes, a secret society. Actually, just to clarify, I want to be a spy consultant because I don't actually want to like do like
Murder people.
Yeah, or like I don't want to go to like really terrible parts of the world. I don't want to have to do like facial disguises. Like I'm not interested
like
in
wear
any
a
of
weird
that.
mask.
But I would
yeah.
like to consult with the people.
Yeah,
doing
absolutely.
that
Yes.
in like a nice space.
Yeah, in like
with
an office.
coffee.
Right. Yeah.
I want you to keep going up. And you can change the scenario. Maybe it's somebody you know. Okay, maybe someone's told you you've won some money and they're handing it to you in these increments. Where does it start to become uncomfortable? And if you made it all the way to $500 without a squidge in your belly, I'm going to ask you to start over.
Right.
Because there is no way there wasn't a point where you started to feel a little something.
Of course.
Okay, that's a block. That's stopping you from receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I think like you better really work on that specific scenario because that might happen?
No.
But symbolically, that
Yes.
point in which you started to feel uncomfortable is the point in which, without any rule, without any factors that you can add in, you're comfortable receiving money.
Right.
Okay. The first time I did it, I made it to $20.
Nice.
Okay. Now I can make it up to about $100 without the squidge.
Yeah.
I would love to tell you I can get higher without the squidge. It's just not true. But I can get higher and it's easier.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
But I need a backstory once we
I was
get
going
to
to say, if
$100.
you give me, I need some parameters here, and then it totally changes.
Exactly. So where is that amount for you,
Right.
and how can you work on bringing it up more?
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing that I tell people to do to start to shift this too is like, ask the universe to send you a gift in the amount that you feel comfortable in.
Right.
Okay. So when I had like coaching groups, we do this, and it was really interesting to see how it would come. Some people would literally find $20 in a parking lot when they were manifesting this. Okay. Some people, like I remember one girl, her mother-in-law gave her a gift certificate that she had found that she wasn't going to use for $50.
Yeah.
And like, do you see the symbolism? Like,
yeah.
It's not inconvenient for someone else, and it's a gift card, so it's specific, and they're not going to use it, so I can have it, right?
Yes.
Like, somebody went and they like ended up not realizing there was a coupon, and someone put a coupon in, and it took off $10. Like,
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't manifest. And then we talked about it.
Yeah.
And then my husband.
Oh, yes. It came through someone else.
It came through him.
Yep.
And he put his hand in his coat and he was like, oh, $5. And just handed it to me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, man.
It had to come through someone else.
It had to come through you.
So yeah, you want to just kind of play with this and see where that is. Because especially with actual money, you're going to have a lot of stuff tied to that.
Right.
You can do this also with gifts. I want you to imagine the scenario where someone walks up to you. It is not your birthday. You have not accomplished anything recently. This is not like a reward gift or a celebration of you. It's just random. Somebody you know is like, I saw this. It made me think of you. Here's a gift. What is that like for you? I will say the me of 10 years ago, that would be a spiral of hell. Like, I appreciate it, but I'm in trouble. I'm in danger.
Now I got to get you something.
Because what am I going to do? I haven't done anything for you.
Right.
Because it's sort of like in your mind, you're always at a deficit.
Yep.
Like, you always owe people for doing something nice to you.
Yes.
It's a form of lack. It's definitely blocking receiving. Okay. Maybe it's like, well, how much is that? Like, is the gift under $100? Is it above $100? Like, what kind of questions did you ask? Did they make it themselves? How much time did they put in? Like, where does your ego start to spin about it?
Right.
Will tell you about your blocks in receiving.
Yep.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely effort-based.
Yes.
More than financially. Like, how much effort you had to put in and time you had to spend on doing something for me.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
How about you? What do you think?
I think the issue would be money. If it was above a certain value, I would start to feel uncomfortable. Like, the effort I would more easily take. I would be like, oh, they really thought of me, and they really know me or see me, and that I can accept. I think it's the money. I have a hard time, like the actual value.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. I'll tell you, we'll talk more about that when we're not on air.
Okay, great.
How about somebody helping you? So let's say you get a flat tire and somebody stops and changes it for you and helps you. Like, what is that like? Imagine yourself in that scenario. How are you behaving?
Oh my God, they're my best friend.
Forever.
I make them my best friend. Remember Junior, who was the AAA guy?
Yes.
When I had a flat tire?
Yes.
And we became like buddies.
Yeah.
And it was because I wanted to be kind to him.
Yeah.
So then I actually
feel good.
Right. So we actually started chatting and being nice because I was like, oh my God, this guy's helping me. Like, it's his job. I literally pay AAA for that. But
this wasn't even a good Samaritan. This was like
no,
a service that you paid to help you.
Yeah, I called for his help. But I felt so bad.
Right. And I think you felt bad for being someone who needed help.
100%.
Not so much for being helped. Because if somebody helps me and it's a situation where I just helped you out, but I didn't necessarily need it.
Right.
I wasn't I wasn't able to get myself through the situation.
Yes.
That's fine. That's but if it's help and I'm hurt or I'm sick or I'm unable to do the thing and people are going to perceive me, Jamie, as that, and they're helping me for that reason, that's where it's yucky for me.
Yep.
Okay. This is what you want to know about yourself because it's blocking this kind of help.
Yep.
And it's also probably pissing off the people that you love who are trying to help you.
It certainly is.
You want to be aware.
Yep.
All right. What are your thoughts on luck? This is one of my favorite things to just throw into a conversation. Like, you think luck's real? Like, how do you feel? Do you have good luck? What do you have to do to receive good luck? Like, what knocks you out of good luck? I like asking questions like this to people because all luck is just manifesting. It's just like a
energy.
safer term, for that. So like asking that, I think it's interesting.
I agree.
Okay, so those are some little tests you can do on yourself. Now I just want to talk about the root of why it's hard to receive and like what's actually going on.
Wait, can we hold on 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to say that if you're like, I just need to back it up a little bit because I used to be the person who was like, oh, that's my luck. That's just my luck.
Oh, yes.
Like if whatever the saying is, like if I had no luck, I would.
You're saying you had a scarcity of luck.
Yeah. So, but it was like in that sort of like Debbie Downer, like victim. It had become like a victim mentality.
Yeah.
So if you're the person who's like, I don't have any luck, worst things always happen to me. Of course that happened to me. Like womp womp. If that's how you feel, I'm not judging you. I've been there.
Same.
But I'm telling you, like, that's where you start because that's a red flag for like very severe lack issues, scarcity issues, 100%. And like in feeling like a victim to it.
100%. I'll say like my version of that is like guilt of luck.
Yes.
So I apologize all the time for luck.
For being lucky, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Because you win every raffle, every drawing. You do. Everyone.
Seriously, like it's ridiculous.
That's just energy. You're just aligned with all of it.
I know.
It's not luck.
I know. But even in like, I'll say like, oh yeah, someone will be like, oh, I'm trying to think of something they'd compliment me for. And I'll think in my head like, sort of the luck of privilege that got me there. And I'll sort of apologize for it. Well, it was easier for me because of this. It wasn't.
Yes.
I lucked out in that department. Like I'll say something like that.
Got it.
As an apology.
Right.
Because we're going back to it's unsafe for me to be seen as doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Or like above somebody or something like that. Okay.
Agreed.
And for you, it's really unsafe to be centered in being perceived.
Yep.
So you can see those two things.
Right.
Obviously, someone's going to pull towards scarcity if they're trying not to be centered in attention.
Exactly.
Right. So that's where you want to look at. That's a really good point. Okay. So the root of all of this, not a spoiler if you've ever listened to our podcast before, is shame.
Right.
Okay. Now, it's important to look at like the shame-based beliefs because you're unconsciously living by like rules that you don't know you have.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And they all have to do with either avoiding feelings of shame or rules that you created around feeling shame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ways to uncover. Let's talk about worth for a minute. This is a broken record thing that I say, but self-worth is a made-up concept. It makes no sense.
It sure is.
Nobody's worth more than anybody else. It doesn't apply here.
We're all we're all worthy.
A capitalistic mindset bullshit thing.
To keep you running and chasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But you have a bunch of statements that say, I'm worthy if.
Yes.
Okay. So you want to look at what the ifs when the whens are. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, I can receive a compliment if it's about a choice I made, not if it's about a performing thing that I'm doing, that's going to tell you something. Okay.
Right.
You want to really look at those ifs. I can receive money if I know I earned it. I can show how hard I worked and how much sweat and blood I put into it. Then I can receive the money. That's what you want to be looking at.
Right.
All right. And then you want to sort of turn it and go, well, why is it unsafe for me to receive something without sweating or bleeding? Dig there. There's a story there from your childhood.
Yep.
It's not logical, but you're living by it.
Yeah. And you'll know you're starting to heal when you hear people online say something like, you've got to work hard.
Oh yeah.
You've got to hustle.
And
you're like, do I though?
I don't.
Aren't I actually worthy right now as it is? Why do I have to suffer? What you're saying is suffering.
Yeah. Right.
Well, like I'm all for working hard and being committed, but
because
the
you
line
want
is
to, not because you have to.
Like you cannot get X until you've worked hard, until you've struggled or hustled, whatever that word is. Like once you've started healing that and you hear those things, I just heard it this morning. That's why I'm saying it. I remember being like, actually, buddy, I don't have to.
Exactly.
I can live the life I want without suffering.
As soon as what you're talking about is what I call like earned speech.
Yes.
Like you have to earn everything.
Yes.
That's somebody using the concept of self-worth.
Yes.
And automatically it's a no.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
But it's ingrained.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Ask yourself the question, what does it say about you if, and use that as the opposite. So what does it say about you if everyone in the room is complimenting something that you did? What does that say about you? And when you dig, you'll come up with the story of something about you. So for me, what does it say about you, Heather, if everyone in the room is talking about how you're really good at something? Okay. What it says about me is I'm unsafe right now because all of these people are about to reject me for being good at something.
Right.
Okay. That's what it says. Look to your universal fears. Look to your desires. They're all giving you clues.
Yep.
But that's why it's dangerous. That's why I'm going to take it down a notch, because if you put me up here, I know I'm not safe. But if you bring me back down and we're on the same level, that's safer. You won't reject me as much.
Right.
Okay. That's what you're looking for. What does it mean in those stories? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make it clear that when you get to the root of these things, they don't make sense. Okay. They're not logical things. Like, I know that because I'm good at something doesn't mean people are automatically going to reject me based on it.
Right.
Okay. But I do have an expectation of that happening, and I have to manage that, and I have to know that about myself.
Right.
Okay. Because it did happen to me.
Yeah.
All right. Doesn't mean it always is, but it could.
Right.
Okay.
It's an option.
Exactly. Another red flag is when you don't believe the statements about other people, but you believe them only about yourself. Okay.
Yeah. Guilty.
So for example, I don't believe that somebody, like, if you're being complimented in a room full of people, that's a dream. I love that. I can't wait to be in that room.
Yes.
That's great. It's not unsafe for you. It's great for you. It's only unsafe for me. That's a red flag that this is one of those like vows and beliefs.
Yes, absolutely.
So you want to look at that. You don't apply it everywhere.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk about some ways real quick to work on receiving, because I think this is important.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, you got to find the roots. So like we're saying, like going down, we're kind of talking about this, but you just keep asking yourself the question, why?
Right.
Like I do that to people all the time. And I think people think some of this work is like really deeply scientific. I think that's funny. Like sometimes all I'm doing is going, why is
pushing.
that?
Yeah, it's
why
like a
do you think that
push.
is?
Right.
What's underneath that?
Right. Why?
Keep going until you see that. You will find something in your childhood.
Yep.
And you'll see, oh, that happened and that was hard. And I created a rule for myself here. And that's why I live that way.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay. Again, they're illogical, but they're also finite. Like there's no room for maybe. It's not black and white. I mean, it's not gray. It's not black and white.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you do this digging and you find it, you find the weird story, you find, oh, everyone's going to reject me if they see me as really good at something, especially if they see me as better at something than other people in the room.
Right.
Oh my gosh, this is a belief I have. In order to change the belief, you have to change the story around it. Okay, so what can you do to change that? One of my favorite stories, I feel like this is kind of universal to help people when it is the money block. Okay. So people sort of have this belief that when it comes to receiving money, they're sort of taking it from someone else if they receive it.
Yes.
Okay. So they sort of imagine that there's just like this certain amount of money in the world.
Because we've been taught by capitalism that there is not enough.
Exactly. Money's just
makes people
made up
scrape
also
for their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But there actually is enough for everybody.
It's made up. People just print it.
Right.
It's not real. I told you, I know people in finance and I say that too. And they're like, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If there's even if that wasn't true, there's still enough money.
Yeah.
If we taxed the right people.
Yeah.
And ran our country in a way that made more sense.
Yeah.
There's fucking plenty of money.
Yeah.
That's capitalism. When you hear that in your head, that's capitalism.
All somebody did was originally make up a thing that was like gold bars. We have so much in a reserve. Let's say that's the amount of money.
Right,
exactly. This is all bullshit made up stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so start there.
Yep.
But when you're thinking of it like that, that's like a lack and scarcity mindset, right? So this made up monopoly money that we're printing,
right?
There's only so much for everyone. So like I really have all these emotions about taking some for me.
Right.
Okay. Instead, how I want you to think about it is that predestined, there is like $20 billion, to pick an amount, that's destined only for you. There's 20 billion for you, Jamie. There's for everybody. Right. Okay. Whatever you don't find and gather and grab in this life, whatever you don't receive just gets unused.
Yep.
Okay. So all you're doing is grabbing the stuff that's already predestined energetically for you to get.
Mm-hmm.
This will help you,
right?
Because suddenly you're not taking it from someone else.
Yep.
Suddenly you're just leaving it behind.
Right.
And if you want to go even further and you're like Jamie and I imagine that anything I don't get, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any of those oligarchs, that they're going to get it instead.
No.
And that makes me have a lot more ease in receiving.
No, they can't have it.
So change the story. When you have a belief, change the story. It's okay if you don't believe the story right away.
Yeah.
Just keep operating with it. Slow walk yourself to the story if you need to. Okay. Put yourself out of your own perspective for a second. So I like to do this with compliments. If you have trouble receiving compliments, I like to say, why do people give compliments? Why do you give a compliment?
Exactly.
What's the reason?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm talking about a genuine compliment. If I look over at you and like I did when you walked in, I said, oh my God, I love your coat. Okay. I mean that I love your coat.
Yeah.
But why am I saying it aloud? What's the point?
Right.
Okay. Is it because I'm like this martyr of kindness, Jamie, and I just want to go around and I just want to make everyone else feel good and it doesn't matter what it does to me? No. Giving someone a compliment is a way to interact with them. It does something for you too.
Exactly.
I want you to know that I like something that you have because I want you to know that it's cute and I want you to feel good about it. But I also want you to know I happen to like it. Like that's
that you're
sharing.
paying attention. Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm not giving it to you selflessly.
Right.
Okay. So it's neither are you. There's no one doing that. I don't care who you are.
Yes.
No human exchanges are selfless. That's not a thing. It doesn't work that way.
They're two-way streets.
Exactly. So if you think about that and you think about why did this person just give me a compliment? They're just trying to connect with you is really the bottom line. So I think of it that way. And then I try, it helps me rise out of my own issues.
Yep.
Connect back to the person.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Oh, I got it on sale, or I got it here, or oh yeah, I like it for this reason. Like keep talking and then keep the conversation going because they've just tried to connect.
Exactly.
Think of it that way, but you don't have to just do that with compliments.
No, agreed.
Pull yourself out, but it will help when you pull yourself out of your own perspective.
Exactly.
Okay. Shift your energy and your intentions to how you want to feel.
Always.
So let's use the money example again because I feel like it's the most popular receiving issue.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to change the way, I want to be way more comfortable receiving money. How do you want to feel when you're receiving money? Oh, I just, ultimately, I'd like to feel amazing. I'd like to feel powerful when somebody hands me money. Okay? Free. Maybe you can't get to there yet. So you're like, oh, I just want to feel relatively peaceful when I receive money. Start there.
Yep.
Know your ultimate goal, free or powerful or whatever, and just start working because you actually can control that.
Yep.
That will help a lot.
It definitely helps.
Yeah. You need to know the answer. How do I want to feel when people compliment my performance at work? I might not feel that way, but I can work to shift myself into feeling that way.
Right.
Okay. Everything is an active balance, Jamie. I'm not sure if you know this. Everything's a spectrum and everything is an active balance.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
In your life, you need different amounts of different things. Okay. So you might be somebody who, when I'm doing stuff, I need a lot of validation if I'm doing, work stuff and it's in this department. Okay. For me, like I don't need as much validation in something I know I'm good at. But if I'm being asked to do something I'm not as confident in, I'm going to need a lot of validation.
Yep.
So I'm going to need to receive. So I'm going to need to be prepared for that to be difficult, but to know I need it.
Exactly.
What's the balance where? Like you need to be aware of that. It's not even everywhere.
Right.
Anywhere.
No, anywhere. Exactly.
Okay. Another thing that I like to apply here is to look for things that trigger you, but also to look for the glimmers, which is a term we discovered on TikTok actually, which is the opposite of a trigger. It's the thing that makes you feel good.
Yes.
So what are the ways that you receive that make you feel really good?
Yes.
Like look for those and how can you use that to help you receive in other ways?
Other places, right.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I want you to think of one of the most powerful ways to shift out of being stuck in shame is I want you to think of yourself as someone else's blank. So yourself in someone else's role. So for example, if I think of myself, if I need to receive, and I think of myself as Gavin and Riley's mother.
Mm.
Receiving money, receiving compliments,
Mm.
it's going to be different than if
Great
I just
point.
think of myself as myself.
It's a good point.
One of the things that Jamie says to me a lot when I'm being very self-deprecating, I get very hard on myself. We both do. One of the things you say to me is, don't say that about my friend.
True.
Okay?
Yes.
Because that little perspective shift, sometimes
Right.
you're like, wait a minute, yeah.
Yeah, you're talking shit about my friend.
Yes, but like
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Do that for yourself sometimes. Like
Yeah.
think of yourself in these different, sometimes think of yourself as a daughter or a sister or whatever. Like how am I talking about myself? Why would I have these rules for myself when I wouldn't want them for myself as someone's mother or someone's partner or someone's friend?
Right. Yeah, like what behavior, what accepted behavior am I modeling?
Yeah.
Right.
And think about, like, pick a person. If you don't have them in your life, imagine them. Create them, make them imaginary. Like I think of Jamie, and I know you do this too because you've texted me sometimes like, oh my God, it's a good thing you weren't in this room with what I was saying about myself. You would have been pissed. Like, think of that person. I think of that. Like, if Jamie was in the room with me right now and she heard me saying this, would she correct it? Would she be mad? Would she shut it down? Would
Not
she
in
yell
front
at
of
me?
other people, but I would go.
Yeah. Or you'd interrupt it and be like, wait a minute. Yeah. That little check will help so much
Absolutely.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Would Jamie want me to receive money? Yes, she would.
Right.
Okay. Sometimes you need that other perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, just a point I want to make. I want to leave you with this little thought bomb.
Oh, okay.
The harder you are on yourself as a person, the more gentleness and care you need to allow yourself to receive.
Amen. That's true.
As
that
the
is
two
true.
co-queens of that department of being hard on yourself, that means we also need more self-care
Yes.
because we spend a lot of time being unkind to
But see,
ourselves.
but that's the conundrum in and of itself, is that like we require care and gentleness, but it doesn't feel safe to receive that. So like you have to, it's like tiny little steps at a time, this journey. It's not like there is no 10-step program.
Yeah.
Like it really is just like these little baby steps towards feeling better and being better at whatever you're looking to be better at. But like that's hard.
It's such a
But
good
it's
point.
so true. It's so true that like if you're so harsh and critical on yourself,
Yeah,
you actually require so much gentleness.
you really do. You require extra.
Right. You have to learn how to allow that. And maybe that just means like using moisturizer after your shower.
Yeah.
Like if it's just little
It
tiny
is. Little
bits of
wins.
self-care, little bits of taking care of yourself, and then you get to a place where you can start to allow other people to take care of you.
Yeah.
One
of my favorite sayings about change, I say all the time, is like it's about being a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes,
like
you
it's,
love that
it's
one.
all that. Like that's everything. If you're trying to just be amazing at it, it's not going to work. I'll give you a quick example.
No, because then you're not uncomfortable anymore, but you don't realize it.
You're just slowly becoming less uncomfortable.
Yes.
I don't think I'll ever be incredibly comfortable being told in front of other people that I'm really good at something.
Right.
I don't know that I'll ever. I hope so.
Right.
But I don't know that. But that's not an expectation I have for myself.
Right.
It's just getting a little bit
better at it.
It's just a quick example.
Yep.
I, being who I am and into the things I'm into, enjoy self-care things that are like acupuncture or like energy work or getting a massage. Like I like that. I know intuitively that I need to be doing those things.
Yes.
When I used to do those things, my discomfort with receiving would make me spend way too much time with whoever was giving me the stuff, like giving to them.
Right. Like you were trying to give back to them.
Yeah.
Like you weren't already paying them and tipping them.
Sort of like you with Junior.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like
homies.
I'm you're pouring into my self-care cup. I got to do a lot for you to feel like this is safe.
Right.
Okay. I don't do that anymore.
Correct.
Okay. However, I do have to do this thing in my head where instead of just doing it for myself, which is the ultimate thing, just because I should, because I'm pouring into myself. Yeah. I think I need to protect the quality of the energy that I give out to the people I care about the most.
It's valid.
I need to be giving out the best quality energy to my kids, to my husband, to my friends, to the podcast, to whatever I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm really depleted,
Can't.
I haven't been receiving,
Right.
that is going to be less. It doesn't matter how hard I work.
Yep.
It's going to not be the best quality it could be.
Agreed.
Is that the ultimate healthy way to be when it comes to receiving? No. But is it better?
Yes.
Yeah. So don't be so hard on yourself about it. Just gradually get better.
Exactly.
It starts with being aware, and it starts with these little ticks into being a little bit more comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. On that note, I need to receive some coffee, so let's go do that.
Hey everyone, Heather and I have an ask for you. If you love this episode or if you love the IGG, can you do us a favor? We need you to go onto whatever platform you listen on and download, subscribe, like, love, whatever it's asking you to do. Can you go do those things for us on the platforms that you listen on? It would mean so much to us.
Thanks for listening to our episode. For a way to get in touch with us, please visit our website, intuitivegirlsguide.com. We love hearing your feedback on our episodes.